Hey gamers, in this episode we're going to take a look at a role-playing game by Monte Cook called Numenera. Hey gamers, welcome back to Game Master's Dungeon. I am Brian, your Game Master, and today we are going to take a look at a role-playing game called Numenera, created by Monte Cook. It's a beautiful book, beautiful artwork. It's a big book too. It's got a lot of pages. It's a pretty unique system. If you guys like high fantasy, sci-fi, kind of a mix of several genres together, like this might be a game for you. But we're going to take a closer look here in just a second. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and that bell icon to get instant notifications when I upload new content. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. Alright gamers, so here we are taking a look at our PDF of Numenera by Monte Cook. Now some of you might know who Monte Cook is, some of you might not. For those of you that don't, you're like, well, who's this guy? Why is he so special? Well, he worked for TSR, the people that were making Dungeons & Dragons before Wizards of the Coast bought them back in the 90s. He worked on several modules for Dungeons & Dragons. I think one of them was like the Labyrinth of Madness. And then Wizards of the Coast buys out TSR late 90s, early 2000s. So he goes to work for Wizards of the Coast as a senior designer. He did a lot of work in the 3rd edition of Dungeons & Dragons, so the Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, DMG. He even got feedback on some of his work from Gary Gygax. Those of you that don't know Gary Gygax, that might even need to be a video all of its own. But he's a big name in Dungeons & Dragons. He worked on the D20 version of the Call of Cthulhu. He also helped with Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil book for Dungeons & Dragons. So he's been in the game for a long time, and he knows what he's doing, and he writes very well, in my opinion. So let's see how this goes. So we're looking at Numenera. So as you can see, the artwork is fantastic for the book. I love it. I like the colors. I like the theme. So now the book is huge. So the PDF is 418 pages. Sorry, still trying to get over this cold. So it might sound a little weird, but so like even like you're looking at the art. So these are like the 3 classes we're going to talk about a little later in the video. But the artwork is fantastic and it's very unique. It's very sci-fi meets fantasy. That kind of thing. Like this guy looks like some kind of evil genius here with his big brain helmet and his staff with a, what is that? Is that like a little world on the inside of that and his floating pages? Looks fantastic. One of the things I will say, the art of this book is fantastic. I love it. Table of contents. All right, so the first section is New World and New Game. Okay, part 1 is Getting Started, so it talks about the 9th world. We'll talk about what that is in a little bit. It's got a quick section on how to play, like a synopsis in the beginning, then it goes later on. Running the game, playing the game, it goes into more detail later. Then it goes into the section of characters. So the character creation starts really from page 19 to 77. So that's a big section, but it includes like the character classes, how to build it, your descriptors, all the different focuses, your equipment. Normally equipment isn't like a whole nother section, but this is all in the same section, which is kind of cool. So when you want to create a character, you can just go to this one section of the book and boom, there you are. You just a handful, okay, 50 something pages, 58 pages of character design. But I think it's really well done, but we'll talk about that later. So then we got playing the game, so rules of the game, and then obviously it's optional rules. Almost every RPG has some kind of optional rule set that you can use to either enhance your game or to make it fit your playstyle. Then it talks about the setting. So the setting itself is almost 100 pages of content of this book. And this setting is very unique. Any of you that have looked through this book obviously understand what I'm talking about. Those of you that have not, we're going to talk about the setting a little bit. I'm not going, super deep detail, but I'll give you a brief synopsis of it, to kind of maybe spark some interest so you can pick this up yourself. And then it talks about creatures and characters. So creatures, non-player characters or NPCs. Then it talks about the Numenera. Then there's a section of running the game. It's got even some adventures in the back. So adventures overview, and it's got 4 little adventures right in the back of the book that you can play to get you going right out of this book. And then there's the back matter. So there's like appendices, the character sheet, the glossary, the index, all the stuff you would normally see in the back of a book. And there's even like little sections of art. I think I can even I can click that. Boom. I can go right to get started. Fantastic. So let's go back to where we were. And I like, how the pages aren't just white. There's a background to almost every page. I can't get over the artwork in this book. It's some of the best that I've seen, aside from World of Darkness books. Because I like that gothic horror stuff. So the World of Darkness, the vampire, the werewolf, love those artworks in there. But this is a good second here. So then there's even like a section of acknowledgments of kind of where they took inspiration. There's Borderlands 2 in there. Love it. Love Borderlands 2. Yeah, there's a huge section. What's cool, you'll see these little green sections, in the margins here. Later on, it might reference something on a page, and then in this margin area in the green, it'll tell you, oh, if you want to talk about this topic, go to such and such page, which is really cool. Most books don't do that. They might reference, oh, look at page this, but this is like specifically this topic, go here, this topic, go here. Helps you navigate the book because it is a pretty lengthy book. And so now this is kind of going into some of the narrative. I'm not gonna dig too deep into it. So basically, you're playing in the 9th world. In this world of Numenera, you're playing in a time when you're the 9th world, so there were 8 other worlds previously, and where civilization and technology grew, and then something happened, and then we went back down. And then the next world, the people found the previous technology, figured out how to use it, built civilization up, and then something happened, we go back down. So now we're in the 9th world, so you're playing in a time where there's all this, there's nanotechnology, there's magic kind of stuff, psychic stuff, all this stuff that you're discovering and using and playing with in this world that's kind of very archaeology type based. You do a lot of exploration and trying to discover and refine some of this technology from before to help civilization grow again. And then eventually, probably something will happen, then we'll go into the 10th world. I don't know. Maybe this might be the end, but... So welcome to the 9th world. See, even my Iron Wind, right? I can even click on these and it'll take me right to the page that I want to go. So, because it makes references of certain things here, and they're even in green words, so called the Iron Wind. Right over here, what is that? I can, boom, go to that page. Fantastic idea, especially in the PDF, and then also just for the book itself, so you're not be like Iron Wind, then you'd have to go to the index or whatever, find a page and flip. Nope, that link will take you right there. Very good feature. I mean, just look at this art. I can't get over it. You're like, okay, Brian, we get the art, but man, I'm a big thing visually about role-playing game books. If it isn't aesthetically pleasing, visually pleasing, it's really hard for me to dig into the book and really be interested. So that's, Dungeons and Dragons has great art. The World of Darkness books, Pathfinder has great art. Because a lot of times you'll buy a book. Say you're at your local game store and you're looking at all the RPG games. Man, it looks cool. Maybe you like sword and sorcery fantasy type stuff. You're looking at Pathfinder, you're like, wow, look at this cool artwork. You start flipping through, wow, this looks great. Sometimes you'll just buy it based on the artwork itself and know, I'm like, man, this is the kind of stuff, that I can imagine when I play. I'm going to play this. So if you like this art, this is definitely going to be a game for you. So then we go into how to play Numenera, and it's got these little green boxes up here. It'll kind of highlight a section of text that's on the page as well. So this right here, this is a key thing that you're going to want to know. You don't earn XP, so experience points for new players, for killing foes or overcoming standard challenges like you would in Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, things like that. discovery is the soul of Numenera. So like I said, right, you're these characters, you're going out in the world, you're trying to rediscover this lost and ancient technology and magic and all this other stuff to help civilization, grow again in the ninth world. And then once again, you've got, these little links over here to different pages when it talks about these stuff that's in green. Now, this isn't just the PDF. Like, this is the book. Like, it'll be different colored in the book. So that means, okay, the word difficulty right here. Oh, okay, it's over here. Decreasing the difficulty. Boom. Page 86. You can flip right there. You can learn, flip right back, keep going. Now, this game uses the D20s, but it's a little different than the standard system. The standard D20 system, let's look at Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. Oh, excuse me. There's say armor class, right? Your AC is 15. If I want to hit you with my sword, I have to roll my D20 plus my bonuses. I need a 15 or more. Easy enough, okay? This uses something similar, but a little different. So when you want to do something, your GM, your storyteller is going to give you a difficulty, a task difficulty from 1 to 10. 1 is anybody, can do it. 10, unless you're almost a god or way above human possibilities, you're probably not going to be able to do it. So say you want to do something and they're going to say, oh, the task difficulty is 3. Now you have to reference what the target number you're going to need is on that D20. So task difficulty is 3. The target number you need to meet or beat on your D20 is a 9. Now, do I like this? I haven't had a chance to play with the system yet. I've only reading it and thinking of how it's going to go on my mind. It's kind of honestly for me, it's kind of a throwback to Thaco from, the old editions of Dungeons and Dragons where you had a number and you referenced another number to get what you need kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know if I like it or not. I think it's unique, but there's only so much uniqueness that you can do with a D20 system. I would just like it as the standard D20 system. My difficulty, 15. I need a 15 or more. Blam. Instead of, okay, my task difficulty is 5. Now, because this is just another chart that GMs are going to have to reference, especially for new GM, it might be a little difficult for you, but at least you could take a picture on your phone or write it down on a little index card. You could have it in front of you, behind your screen or whatever to make it easier. But numbers are pretty straightforward, right? There's not okay, it's DC 13. No, it goes from 9, 12, 15, period, right? And then you don't reduce the target number if you have training and skills or other abilities that make things easier. All you do is reduce the task difficulty from, say, 3 to 2. So now you need from a 9, 90 to 6, right? So it's pretty easy. It's just having to take this number and reference to get another number that then you have to roll to beat or meet or beat. I don't know. Like I said, if I played with it more or had a chance to play a game, I would like it a little better. But right now, I'm not totally sold on the system. Some of you may love it, and that's great. If you do, put that down in the comments below. We can talk about that. It gives you a quick synopsis of combat. So in this game, though, also the players are the only one that roll dice. I don't roll dice behind my screen against you. No, you want to attack the bandit, right? I just set a difficulty class based on how well trained he is, his armor, his defenses, and now you have to roll and beat the target number to hit him, right? It's not like an opposed roll, or even if I want to, if I want to attack you as well, it's, okay, he makes an attack, and now you're going to have to make a roll for your defense. Instead of me rolling to hit you, I'm okay, the difficulty task to avoid this attack is X. Now you need a Z number. You roll. Okay, so you do all the rolling. Because this game is designed that the player drives all the action. It drives the story. It drives the narrative. It drives the game forward. And that's a really cool idea. I like that. It's because some games, like say Dungeons and Dragons, GM's got to roll d20s and he's rolling d6s and 4s and he's making notes. It's a lot of bookkeeping, but this is just like, well, okay, you do all the work when it comes to the dice. You just tell me what you get. That I like. Yeah, then it's got like glossary little sections here. So game master, non-player character, party, all that stuff. Basic terms through basic games. Now, if you're a new player just coming into role-playing games and you came here and you're like, wow, okay, this sounds cool, or I saw this at the store, what is this game about? This is good for you guys, right? Because this gives you some of the basic terminology you're going to see, whether you're researching online, you're watching other videos. People are going to talk using this lingo, and you're going to want to know that. Okay. Then then it's got other stuff. It talks about experience points. One of the things I'll touch on now, and then I'll talk about later. So experience points are rewarded given to players when the GM intrudes on the story. So instead of like you kill the goblin and you get 5 experience, no. How this game works is like, okay, say you as a jack, which is a class we'll talk about later, is going to pick a lock to get into this, vault or whatever where this, piece of ancient technology you've been looking for is. Well, say you make your roll, and I'm like, as the GM, I'm like, well, actually, you successfully picked a lock, but you spring a trap that you didn't notice beforehand, right? So I can kind of intrude there. I can add, dynamic elements to the story. But if I do that, I have to give you, the player, experience points. And now you've got something new that you have to deal with, which is kind of cool. Then also there's ways that players can refuse such intrusions and experience moving around the party, which we'll talk about later. Talks about ciphers, as explained in Chapter 1, Welcome to the Ninth World. Ciphers are a type of Numenera that have a single minor use. Character can carry ciphers and use them during the game. So these are things you're going to have. Talks about other dice. Unless it says otherwise, D20 is what you're always going to use. There will be use of D6s and hundreds and other stuff like that. So if you're going to play this game, make sure you've just got your basic set of dice with your D20, 12, your 2 10s, your 4, your 6, and your 8, and you should be good. Chapter 2 talks about characters, creating your character. We're not going to go into huge detail on this. I will do character creation video shortly after this comes out, just to kind of show you guys how it goes so you can get right into the thick of things. And then you see we got little sections right here as well, like how there was up at the top in green. These are in different colored based on the different topics, right? Which is kind of cool. Let's get down to the different character types. Now, yeah, there we go. So character types is in Chapter 4. So glaives. So the game has 3 character class, like archetypes, but then there's a lot of customization options for each character. So 2 glaives in the same party will never be the same, which is kind of cool. So glaives are like your warrior type armor and weapons, and they're like the physical based character. Now, there is one thing, as I was kind of flipping through this. Oh, there we go. Where is it? And then, yeah, so the game is based with characters on different tiers. So, like, you start at first tier, so basically first level. As you progress in tiers, you get stronger and stronger abilities to use. It goes all the way up to 6th tier. Just in the base book, there might be other books that come out or have come out that expand the tier list. But right now, tier 6 out of the core book is as high as you go. Then it gives you an example here of a glaive example, like of creating and spending points and choosing, equipment and your focus and connection and all that other stuff. Now, what I don't like is so it starts the nano at the bottom of this page with the glaive. Like, I was kind of flipping through. I was like, okay, let's look at nano. Where's nano? Okay, there's a nano. So I had to scroll back up. I'm like, oh, he starts right here. Now, this I don't like. I think this is a bad design. This is just, me nitpicking, but I would like glaive to just come to an end on this page, and then the whole nano should start on a new page. But aside from that, it's all pretty well put together. A lot of art in there. So your nanos are like your mages, wizards, and sorcerers, witches, magic based. They use like nanotechnology and other things to create their effects. So like you can see in this picture right here, this nano is blasting bird dogs. It's got a beak, big beak, claws. Looks like a dog with a bird head on it. I don't know what it's called, but it looks cool. He's blasting it with his, with his magic powers. Pretty cool. I like this picture right here. This is kind of cool. Very, it's going into the brain. I like the dynamic pose. The art is just fantastic. I can't get over it. And then also the classes use, so you have a focus, right? And then you have like a connection, like right here. So all the classes have one. So you roll a d20, so you have like a connection. So roll a d20, choose from the following list to determine specific fact about your background that provides a connection to the rest of the world. So you kind of help build your character right here. You can either roll randomly or you can choose if you've got a character concept in mind. Then it goes into the different tiers and the abilities that they get. I love this picture right here. That one's cool. Big brain man. Then it's got the section, the nano example of creating a nano. She can bear 3 ciphers, but the GM gives her 2, The 2 different ciphers is something that you get during character creation. Her descriptor is graceful. Her focus rides the lightning. Because kind of how the game works is when you come up with a character, it's a sentence. I'm a blank, either Jack, Nano, or Glaive. That is blank. In this example would be graceful. That blank rides the lightning. That kind of describes your character. And then the descriptor and the focus then give you different abilities and stat bonuses and different equipment and whatever like that. So it's kind of cool. So say you and I each make a nano. We choose different descriptors and focus and allocate our points differently. Sure, we're the same class, but we're 2 totally separate characters. We don't both do the exact same thing. So you can never really, double up on the same character class like you would in say Dungeons and Dragons. You have 2 rogues in the party. Sure, they can build and kind of each a little differently, but they both serve the same function. This 2 of the same class can serve different functions based on those choices they make. And then here once again, so we start the Jack on half of the end of the nano page. I would say Jack, start its own page, put a bigger piece of art here or something. I don't know. I would do that differently. Then each section of the class starts with their character pool, their your might, speed, and intellect pool. Those are kind of the basis of your might is like your strength and physical capabilities. Speed is like dexterity, agility capabilities. Intellect is like your intellect, your intelligence, mind and will capabilities, things like that. So it uses those 3 stats with some other things you get out of your focus and descriptor to really define your character. So Jacks are kind of like your jack of all trades, your rogue type characters, which are really cool because then it goes into your different tiers. You got your connection section there that you can roll on or choose. Because see, you look at this guy is a Jack, right? Smoking a cigar, and he's got his scrolls. Well, then you look at this girl down here, she's got some kind of weird scythe type weapon just on her arm. I don't know if it's like a special weapon, her arm slips in there, or if her arm is removed, then that's what it is, right? 2 different types of characters based on the choices they make during character creation. Then you look at this guy with his, curved blades and his mismatched boots with no toes. Sandal boots with knee pads, with no shirt, 2, 3 different completely types of characters based on the same class, which is fantastic. Then it goes into your descriptors. So charming, clever, graceful, then depending upon what you choose, get different abilities. So let's look at charming. You're a smooth talker and a charmer. This is all the stuff you get. You get +2 to your intellect pool. Skills, you're trained in all tasks involving positive or pleasant social interactions. Skill, you're trained when using esoteries or special abilities that influence the mind of others. And then obviously see how they're different colors, right? You can come over here and you can click these little links, or you can turn to that page and find out exactly what that means, which is really cool. Then you get all these bonuses. Now, some of them might give you negatives as well, but it's great for building a character. I like what they've done with this system. And then, yeah, right here. So your descriptor defines your character. It flavors everything you do, okay? Then you got stealthy, strong-willed, strong. See, more cool art. Remember that characters are defined as much by what they're not good at as by what they are good at, which is a fantastic saying. A lot of people try to, like, when they create a character, make sure they're good at everything. But that's not how people are. Like, I'm good at a lot of stuff, but then there's also a lot of stuff I'm not good at. Like, I cannot sew very well. I'm very sloppy. I'm very like, oh, Brian sewed that. You know when I sewed something, or other things like that. I'm not a gymnast. I'm not athletic like that. But there are other people that are. But everyone has their skill set that they're good at, and also everyone has their opportunities. But you build a party of everyone that's good at something that the party would need, so you have all your bases covered, so the party then relies on each other for cooperation. Character focus, so you got a bunch of different foci right here. So like bears a halo of fire, so you pick this, and then you get these abilities. And then the origin of special powers, if you want an explanation of some of your more supernatural powers by your focus. So some focus will give you certain powers. You can roll here, like a 40 to 43. Intentional or accidental fusion implantation with mechanical device in the head or the eye. Give you your powers, which is really cool. So it blends that sci-fi, fantasy, exploration. It's a really, really good setting. Because then it kind of gives you the best of all the worlds, and you're not really kind of confined. Excuse me. You're not really kind of confined to one genre. You can kind of explore all of those and make a mix. I think it's really good for those people that like to just think big about character creation, or even those that don't think big and want to just focus in tight on a character. They can do that as well and still be part of the greater whole. All right, so huge section on this. So you got all the, craft solutions. Then you get all these different abilities, and it's got the links here. There's a ton. This section is huge, so make sure you read this thoroughly here. There's even some hand-drawn art right there. That's the first one of those that I've seen, which is kind of cool. Phasing through a wall. Even little sections of art right here. Focuses mind over matter, GM intrusion. One mental slip and moving objects drop or fragile objects break. Sometimes the wrong item moves, falls, or breaks. So say you're using your telepathic powers to move something, and I'm like, oh, well, something that you're carrying, something important inside, falls out and breaks or something like that. GM intrusion, small little things like that, where the GM can kind of twist the story in a direction that they want it to go, or to add a little flavor to it. Mastery of defense, mastery of weapons, one who murders. The murderous assassin is a master of dealing death. They even have stuff like that, if that's what you want to be. So it's got, I think, honestly, looking through all of these when I did, I think there's options for everyone. I don't think anyone's going to be like, man, I wish they had such and such for my character. I think like almost all bases are going to be able to be covered. Everyone's going to be able to make a character that they would be happy with, without being like, man, I'll go with this, but I wish I had that. Now, there might be some of you out there that might think, well, maybe I think a little differently. That's cool. But I think you'll still be able to create something that you're happy with. Then it talks about your equipment, like currency, different materials in the world. It does use an encumbrance system, weapon lists and prices, just like in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, what is this? Look at this weapon. That's legit. It's like a two-clawed jade, I don't know, something. Claw handle scythe thing. I don't even know. It's fantastic, though. You got light weapons, medium weapons, and heavy weapons, other equipment, just like other games have. You know, like you have your weapons and your armor, and then you'll have like your explorer's pack. That's got rope and rations and spikes and hammers and tent and all that other stuff. So make sure when you're choosing your equipment, right, you think I'm going to be traveling, because that's the name of the game, right? The name of the game is exploration. You're going to go out in the world and explore, see exotic locations, and meet, you know, crazy creatures and stuff like that. So make sure you're prepared. Then there's a section on playing the game, rules of the game, and optional rules. This is how to play Numenera, right? So the player tells the GM what she wants to do. GM determines if the action is routine or if it needs a difficulty number. DM gives you the difficulty number. You roll your dice. They tell you if they succeed. You know, obviously you apply any training equipment or special abilities. Then you roll, you're equal to or higher than the target number, you succeed. Simple as that. GM rolls no dice, a lot less bookkeeping for you potential GMs, which I think is going to be great. Talks about taking actions, key concept, right? So action, character, difficulty. It talks about some of the, the lingo you're going to use in this book. A lot of it's pretty common throughout most role-playing games, but there might be something in here that is going to be specific to this. Make sure you look over this. Determining task difficulty. This is like for the GM. It seems all pretty simple, right? Because now we go back to this chart here again. Okay. You determine, okay, is picking that lock difficult? Yeah. Okay, difficulty 4. Task number 12. Okay, the Jack is trained in picking locks. Well, then they would reduce the task difficulty from 4 to 3. Maybe they've got a mastercrafted lockpick. Reduces the difficulty to 2, which is now, it went from a 12 to a 6. Boom. Simple. They roll. Do they succeed? Yay or nay? Continue the story. So it keeps it very fluid. Talks about rolling the dice. There's that section about the player always rolls. Talks about special rolls. So if you roll a 1, that's when the GM gets to make a free intrusion, and he doesn't have to give you experience points. Then you have 17, 18, 19, 20. If you roll this, you get additional bonuses. Like if it's an attack, you deal extra damage, a major effect on a 20. If it's an attack, it deals 4 additional points of damage. If the roll is something other than attack, the PCs gets a major effect in addition to the normal result. If the PC spent points from a stat pool on the action, the point cost for the action decreases to 0, meaning the character regains those points. So you'll have your pool, your might, speed, and intellect, and some actions require you to spend some of those points, because it's kind of like it's a measure of your stamina, your durability in that. Might pool is when you take damage, it comes out of might. When you lift and pull and climb, you spend points, right? It just, as your pool decreases, it shows you're getting tired, you're wearing yourself out. Intellect, as you're spending points in that, your mind is becoming strained, you're becoming exhausted, that kind of thing, which is, I like that, instead of just like a standard just set of hit points, because hit points is very vague. Like if it's just like a number that just goes up and down like a yo-yo, you don't really get the feeling of, okay, well, I'm my 50 hit points, I'm down to 25, I'm like half dead. What does that mean? What does that look like? Am I cut, bleeding, bruised? Am I tired? This, you can be like, all right, my pool is half depleted. You have a better sense of what that's going to feel like as a character. All right, it talks about encounters, rounds, and initiative. Then it talks about how damage works. Damage is applied to your might pool first. Once your might pool depletes to 0, it comes out of speed. Then once this depleted, it comes out of intellect. Once it's depleted, you're in bad shape. Okay, armor. Each time a character takes damage, subtract his armor value from the damage before reducing his stat pool or health. For example, if a Jack with armor 2 is hit by a sword that deals 4 damage, the Jack only takes 2 points of damage. If the armor reduces the incoming damage to 0 or lower, the character takes no damage from the attack, which is cool. And then, here's that section of, how damage is taken. Damage is applied to pools in this order: might until 0, speed till 0, then intellect. It's got the damage track. And then there's like sources of damage from hazards here. So like fire, acid, severe cold, being crushed. Remember, you're going to be exploring exotic places like high mountains, dark caves, things like that. It's going to have all the hazards involved. All right, about 100. This is about 100 pages in. There's even gravity. So you go into this, vault or whatever, and the item activates, and now it reduces the gravity, so everybody's just kind of floating around. It even has rules on how to act and fight in gravity, which is kind of cool. Talks about area attacks, special abilities. Talks about movement modifiers, so rough terrain, difficult terrain, water, low, high, and zero gravity. So you get penalties or bonuses to your speed, like how far you can move. So you even got a section of long-term movement, because remember, like I said, you're going to be exploring, traveling, very Lord of the Rings, Hobbit kind of thing, going on those big journeys. Lots of extended movement, walking, riding, flying, whatever. Let's see what else. We got guarding, talks about healing, jumping, your basic stuff. So we're not going to go too much into detail in this section. If you do pick up this book, make sure you read through all these, just so you have a decent understanding. As the GM and also as a player as well, you're going to want to familiarize yourself with how certain things work. And then it's got crafting, building, and repairing, which is kind of cool. Because some games have like this, but it's kind of like, well, okay, I'm just going to craft bullets for my pistol. Okay, make your roll. All right, you craft 20 bullets. This has got, you can do all kinds of stuff with this. You can create new technology, put technology together, all kinds of stuff. Like this section is really good. You're going to want definitely to look through this, because this is going to be a big part of the gameplay. And talks about experience points and game intrusion or GM intrusion. This is that section I was telling you about. So how it works. So if the GM makes an intrusion, like we go back to that example of, you pick the lock, but you set off a trap that you didn't see before. Well, basically, I as a GM would give you 2 experience points. Okay? And then you would have to give one of your experience points to another player in the party. Then you have to justify that gift. So I give you 2, and then say you give it to the guy sitting next to you, or girl, whatever. And they're like, well, earlier they, they were able to help us all climb up that cliff to even get here. Without this character, we wouldn't have got up here. All right, cool. That's a good justification. So you get 2 experience, and then you have to give one of it away. And then now you've got to deal with this trap you just sprung. Now, you can deny the intrusion. So if you have at least 1 experience point that you haven't spent, I attempt to intrude upon you. You could be like, well, no, we don't set off no trap. You're gonna deny me that, so you do not get 2 experience points, but then you still have to give 1 experience point to another player in your party and justify the gift. So give it to the person that helped you get up the cliffside, but then you don't set off the trap. But if you have 0 experience points in your experience pool, you have to take the intrusion. I think that's a really cool system. I like that. Like I said, I haven't really had a chance to play this, but reading it sounds like it's really, really cool. Because the GM will be able to just dynamically add tension or suspense to the game at a moment's notice. So always be ready for that. And then progressing to a new tier, it's got this section here, GM awards, awarding experience, player-driven awards, then it's got a section on spending experience. If a player experience points are meant to be used, hoarding them is not a good idea. If a player ever accumulates more than 10 experience at once, the GM can require her to spend some of them. So you can't just sit and hoard 20. I can be like, well, you've got at least 10, I'm going to make you spend them. Because if I make you spend them, then you could spend them all, and then when I go to intrude on you, you can't deny me. Then there's immediate benefits. The easiest, most straightforward way for a player to use XP is to re-roll any roll in the game, even one that she didn't make herself. This costs 1 XP per roll. That's kind of cool. So experience points is not just for leveling the character. It influences the entire dynamic of the party and the game itself, which most games don't do. Experience points is like this static number that's kept on the corner of your character sheet. You don't even look at it or think about it until after the game. Okay, now I've got 200. Do I gain a level? Yep, cool. Okay, done. No, this is like, it's a currency. It's a resource to be used in this game. Then it's got, short-term and long-term benefits, like right here. So if a rule gets in the way or detracts from the game, the players and the DM should work together to change it. Most games have this, right? Don't look at these books or any role-playing game book and don't take it as rules as written. If you don't like this rule, or if it doesn't fit your campaign or your story, get rid of it. Change it. Whatever you want to do. Have fun. That's the key. Okay, let's keep going here. Then there's a section on optional rules. Trading damage for effect, like knockback, moving past, striking a held object, things like that. Lasting damage, like broken arms, muscle damage. Like this is, this gets deep into stuff like that. So if you're a new player, I maybe not go with the optional rules. If you're an advanced player and your party's, moderate to advanced in experience of playing and being able to track and keep up with all of these new rules, use that. If not, don't. Okay? Let's keep going here. Wow, this is cool. Look at that guy. I like his sword and his shoulder pads. Fishman? Red Fishman? He looks angry. I don't know. Oh, this guy looks pissed too. Look at this guy. Is that a dwarf? Is he standing? I don't know. Like I said, the art in this stuff is just fantastic. Alright. Cosmetic mutations as a whole. You get blue skin, purple skin, very thin. That's kind of cool. Distinctive mutations affect nothing but the appearance of a character. None is so pronounced as to make a character decidedly more or less attractive. They are simply distinguishing alterations. All right, part 4, the setting. So living in the ninth world. This is going to give you an overview of the game world, what you're going to be looking at, have the theme, the feel, and the mood of the game. Then it's even got like some maps here. And it's even got little links here to these reference different like Aeon priests. You can go here to find out what they are. It talks about religion, language, Ninth World history, gazetteer of the Ninth World. Very Cthulhu here. I love it. Then the Steadfast comprises 9 different countries. Collectively, the rulers are often called the 9 rival kings. So this is like the world, part of the world you'll be playing in, the Steadfast. It's got more maps. Very detailed. I like those. So like here, like wealthy as a Navarrene merchant is a saying that the Steadfast that almost always has implied negative connotations. Hopefully I said that right. And I see, look, it's like a little town, little village. Like there's, it's got this is like a very D&D type medieval dungeon, then not dungeon, but city, town. Then you'll get to these big, huge, extravagant science based cities of towering spires and magic swirling around, and it's got a really good mix of all those different genres. The City of Bridges, that looks like a hot mess. That'd be kind of a cool, have a cool battle right there, running around all these different bridges, and stuff is just like floating out there. More maps. QI, I'm assuming that's how you say that, key. Right, it's got points of interest and things like that. So this whole section is going to really give you some deep detail on. I'm sorry, are we very Green Goblin right there? That's kind of cool. There's a huge skyboard, glider, I don't know, surfboard. But yeah, this section is going to give you a lot of detail on the different the places, the people, the religions, cities, all that kind of stuff in the world. So this is going to be really good for GMs. So if they want to set their story in a certain area of the game, go to that section, read up, know the lore and the history. More maps. All right, we're getting about halfway through the book here. This section is pretty long because, obviously, this is the first book of this game, so it's going to have a lot of information to really be able to set the scene and to give you that ability to immerse yourself, to have that suspension of disbelief. Then there's the beyond. This is a very steadfast centric term used essentially to describe any area of the world that isn't part of the Nine Kingdoms. So, like, look, this looks like some kind of, like, desert wasteland out there. Oh, that's kind of a cool looking picture right there. The Scorpion Sanctum. What? Now, I haven't read this whole section, right? I've read through the rules, character creation. I've skimmed some of this, read a little bit of the lore and kind of how it goes, just to kind of give you like an overview and my review of, is this something that I would want to play more of? Would I want to read more? Would I recommend this to you? Well, that's what we're going to talk about at the end. Okay, that's cool. Giant star jungle. I like it. Well, that's kind of cool. Little lizard people. Then we got the jagged wastes. That's what I figured it was. Some kind of wasteland out there. Ba-Adnu Forest. Yeah, sometimes, you look at some of this stuff, you're like, how do I say that? You give it your best shot. As long as everybody understands what you're trying to say, it's good. Oh, giant cat mounts. I love cats. Cats are great. The City of Night, Weber, however you want to say it. Garan, the City of the Missing, sections of the town. Wow, that's huge. Look at that. It's kind of cool. So yeah, this game offers a lot of depth to character, to the lore. If you're looking for a really deep experience, I think this could be a place to go here. Beyond the Beyond. Okay, now we're just getting way out there. So the Clock of Kala, this impossibly tall, impassable mountain range, makes a nearly perfect ring around the region known as the Agyr Kala. Viewed from above, the range looks almost like a clock face. Well, that's kind of cool. I wonder if we're going to get a picture. That's part of it. University of Doors. The keys to your new life. Oh, wow, this is very Matrix here. But yeah, this section is just huge. There's a lot of reading here. Obviously, it's one of those things, right? If you're just looking to get into the game, like, you would go through this and just find a section, find maybe a town or something that you want to start playing in for you GMs, and just kind of work just around there. Start small. Don't be thinking about the world as a whole. Just start small and just kind of work your way out as your characters go to discover new, further away areas. That's when you can start to expand your reading and learn more of the lore of okay, next to this city is this town, and this has got this lore. It's actually in this area, right? Just work your way out like a big spiral as they travel further and further from home. So now we're into creatures and characters, creatures and NPCs. So this is going to be kind of like a bestiary, like, whoa, holy nasty bugs. That's disgusting. Some kind of weird alien with its stomach and its clawed hands and its one eye. Whoa. Some kind of pack animal there. A blood barm. That looks disgusting. A broken hound. Maybe that's what they were in that picture. It's got the bird beak on a dog body. Oh, giant gorilla looking thing. It looks like a gorilla covered in vines. Like, I love like the uniqueness. Like, I'm not seeing like, oh wow, there's like some kind of robot. Death Phantom. Looks like a darkly armored humanoid with a swirling black hole in its chest. What? Black hole. What? Fantastic. 8 and 24. So it's motive. Destruction. Always solitary. Found anywhere. It's got 40 health. It inflicts 8 points of damage. Armor 4. Anyone that's played any kind of RPG and understands, damage 8. That sounds like a lot. Because you look at like what a character can do with like one of their weapons is like 4, maybe up to 8 if you roll really, really well. It's got 4 armor too, so they're reducing the damage they take by 4 all the time. It's got short movement, so it's kind of slow. The Disassembler. The Dread Destroyer. What? This is like Mass Effect looking stuff here. This is fantastic. 100 health. What? Alright. Yeah, see, like, so far I haven't seen anything that I've seen in any other game before. Maybe something similar, but, like, there's no, like, I haven't seen the Goblin, the Kobold, the Bandit. Like, all of this stuff is all unique and all new, which is great from, like, my point of view, because I've played a lot of games over a lot of years, and, wow, okay, its head detaches from its body. Fantastic. That's creepy. The Bovian Wife. But anyway, so yeah, I've played a lot of games over a lot of years, and a lot of games will use the same kind of stuff from game to game or take similarities. I mean, a lot of the stuff is just new, and I love new stuff because it's like, wow, I get to imagine new things, I get to play in a new world, face new monsters, new challenges. It's exciting for me. If you guys are just coming to this video looking, this is going to be your first game, this is going to be, it could be great. It is so far from what I've seen, it's pretty complex. But most games like this are. But this is like on a whole nother level. So it's going to be one of those things like, are you into that? Or no? We're going to talk about that at the end, so stay tuned. So, okay, we're going to go to non-player characters. So, Aeon Priest. Oh, spoke too soon. There's a bandit. Well, obviously, if you're, wandering around in the waste, very Mad Max, you're going to run into bandits. It's inevitable, right? Explorers, there's like, a stock nano, tower guard, warlord. All right, just some quick characters to throw in there if you need something real quick. Part 6 is the section on the Numenera. So technology, ciphers, artifacts. This section goes into technology. So in the ninth world, Numenera is a term that refers to anything that seems supernatural and that comes from the prior ages of the earth. Okay? Kind of like how Final Fantasy X, they had the Machina, like the machines from the previous world. It's kind of like that. So there's like scavenge, cobbled, fashion, bonded. You can do all kinds of stuff with this technology because there's so many different kinds. Ciphers are one-use, cobbled together bits of technology that characters frequently discover and use. Anytime PCs come upon an old device, defeat an artificially enhanced or designed creature, or simply sift through the ruins of the past, they might scavenge a handful of new ciphers. So single-use items that they either put together or, that's a piece of a larger whole. It's a one-use kind of thing. That's kind of cool. So that's, a lot of the stuff that you're going to find as you're exploring. You have a limit to the number of ciphers you can carry at a given time. The idea is that ciphers can be dangerous when gathered together. If you have different kinds of technology all together, you don't want to put them all in your bag. What if you cause, some kind of, explosion or something, right? So I can kind of see where they're coming with that. Finding and identifying ciphers. Always scavenged out of old machines. Workbench supplies of various parts. You can search, intellect-based action. Typically, being skilled in the Numenera reduces the difficulty of this search. So there would be different knowledges of the types of Numenera. So if you're knowledgeable in that type, you get bonuses, or basically you reduce the difficulty. So a selection of Ninth World ciphers. So Anti-Venom, Attractor, Vanishing Node, Datasphere Siphon, Density Node, right? Is that what it said? Density Nodule. Detonation Sonic, like a grenade. All kinds of stuff. Gas bombs. So this is like other games, so like would be like, you know, magic stuff. A mono blade, wearable on the glove, produces a 6-inch blade that's the same level as the Sci-Fi. Okay, that's kind of cool. It cuts through any material of a lower level than its own. Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah, see, the technology and the stuff that you get in this game is fantastic. It, like I said, it blends a bunch of different genres together, specifically fantasy and sci-fi together, which is just fantastic. Artifacts. I'm assuming artifacts, so these are going to be your big things you're going to find. Tech devices left over from the civilization of the past. These are devices of a more permanent nature with more straightforward applications. Weapons, armor, utility items, things like that. Yeah, so you're going to find some ancient artifact weapon or something from an age-long past. Armored flesh. Automated cook, battle armor. A battle suit. Oh, you can get all Iron Man up in this. That's kind of cool. Oh, wow. See? Art. Fantastic. Oh, look at that. Disruption blade. That's kind of cool. Yeah, this is a pretty lengthy list. Obviously, they have books coming out later. Or more books. Actually, I was looking on the website, and I think... so, the summer of 2018, they're going to be coming out with a version 2 of this. They're going to keep the mechanics and a lot of the lore the same, but there's going to be like some things that are going to change. It's going to be broken down into 2 books instead of one big one. I think one's called Destiny and one's called Discovery. So it's going to be 2 books you're going to want to buy. But that's not bad. I'm assuming then they're going to cut the price per book. And so buying both books might be the same as buying this one. I like PDFs myself, so if you get the PDF, a lot of times you get it cheaper. And then running the game, so this is going to be your Game Master section, right? So we're just going to breeze through most of this. So you Game Masters, make sure you get, if you get this book, read through this section. It's going to talk about your intrusion, XP, experience points, dice rolling, action types. Well, they even have their own kind of cool dice. Right, it's going to be the whole section on game mastering. So we're not going to talk a lot about here, especially if it's like new players, maybe not new GMs are watching this video. Then it talks about building a story, which is really cool. A lot of games don't do this. They give you like some hints, but this is a whole section on like building a story. Your first few sessions, how to teach the rules, combat. So if you guys are interested like in this game and you guys want to see more stuff like specifically about certain topics, leave it in the comments below and I can put a video together for you that we can talk about that. Okay. Mature themes, right? It's going to talk about just all the stuff for creating a story. It's not just like don't throw your characters into a town somewhere and fight rats in a cellar. No, come up with a mood, a theme. Have an overarching story, things like that. It's going to kind of give you a good synopsis on how to do that to help you out. Then there's like a whole example of play. So the Game Master and 4 characters. So this might be worth reading through for players and for GMs, just so you both have a good knowledge of the system. What I've liked to do in the past is get your 4 players and you as a GM and play this out at the table. Right? Everybody get their dice or whatever, or just kind of, role play through it. Role playing? Sounds weird, I know, but instead of just reading it, like if you guys all, okay, I'm going to be Diana, you're going to be Bruce, you, Clark, I'm the GM, everybody plays a character and you guys all kind of go through it, helps you better understand it. Realizing the Ninth World is a setting unlike any other. Building stories there can seem challenging, like I was just talking about. Portraying a world 1 billion years in the future can be daunting. Then it's gonna take you through how to bring your story to life, maintaining the weird, describe but don't define. Okay, never use the same trick twice. That's good. A lot of people use the same thing over and over again. It becomes repetitive and boring. Don't use one idea. Use 2 or more. Like if you have a couple of cool ideas for new and dangerous creatures for the NPCs to encounter, don't create several different beasts. Instead, take all of those ideas and incorporate them into one creature. You know, so say I want, oh man, maybe I want a giant robot, you know, that does this, and then a giant robot that does that. Well, why don't I make a giant robot that does both? And you could have the ones that do singly, you know, just, you know, keep it unique. Don't pigeonhole yourself into, you know, one thought process. Expand. You know, don't be afraid to mix ideas together, because this does mix a lot of different genres together. So even if you do something like that, you can still maintain that suspension of disbelief. Right here, this is a good one right here. What page is this? 358. Numenera is meant to be weird. The ninth world is built on the bones of prior civilizations that not only created technologies that surpassed understanding, but also lived in cultures and carried out activities that cannot be imagined by the current inhabitants. So the height of the eighth world's technology and understanding, with, you know, we can't even see that high up the mountain. We can't even fathom it, is starting in the ninth world. So don't be afraid to be like really weird with stuff, because who knows what was actually you know, capable of being done in the previous world. Which is kind of cool, because even if, you know, that helps with the suspension of disbelief, you know, the characters could be like, no way, man, that can't be right. Well, you don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows what was capable of being done. Oh, okay, yeah, I get that. All right, so then your characters are learning something new about the previous world. So this, you know, sorry, I just kept scrolling. So it talks about cities, running scenarios, villages, afflictions. To the, you know, this is kind of helping you. Okay, I want to be in a village. Something happens at night, like a mist comes in the night and steals people away. All right, cool. Okay, now what can I do with that? What is there to discover? This game is all about discovery. What is there to discover about this mist that comes in and take people? It's some kind of technology from a nearby cave, or somebody using some technology for nefarious ends, right? What are they going to discover? Okay. And it's got, you know, all different charts and different maps. This is a great section for GMs. Then it's going to go into your adventures. So I'm just going to kind of skip most of these, because I don't want to give anything away. Especially if you're going to be playing in a game that your GM is going to be running one of these. I don't want anything spoiled. Let me see if we can just scroll down past this. Okay, so the back matter. This is character creation walkthrough, which is really good. So get prepared. Step 1, choose your character. Then fill, you know, step 2, 3, 4 shows the character sheet and what each section is. The second part of the character sheet, you know, all this stuff. This might be something good to like print out and have everyone have a copy, or you can hand copies out with character sheets. If you're first time in GM, or you're starting a new game with new players, just to help everyone get together and have everyone kind of do it all at the same time. And then it goes into the biography and resources. So there's a list of fiction and television and movies. Then obviously it was done on Kickstarter. So these are all the Kickstarter backers. Tons. Honestly, if I would have known this was coming out, I probably would have donated to that as well. It's got your glossary, of course, like most games do. Then your index. Then it's got your character sheet, so the page 1 and page 2. What's next for the ninth world? So it's, you know, bestiary, guidebook, different materials that they're going to come out with. And that's it. That's it for the book. All right. So let's take a moment and let's wrap it all together and give you my thoughts. Well, all right, gamers. So that was the book, the core rulebook for Numenera. I hope you enjoyed that run through. I hope you saw some stuff in there that piqued your interest. So let's break it down. What do I think of this? So obviously the art. I talked a lot about the artwork. I'm a big man on aesthetics of a game. Like you look at Mutants and Masterminds, right? Those comic books. I love comic books. Most of you that play Mutants and Masterminds like comic books and that kind of stuff. So you're drawn to that because of the artwork and the design of it. It's aesthetically pleasing. You're like, okay, cool. I can imagine this. So Numenera, right? I'm looking at some of those pictures. Oh, I can imagine a nano or a glaive I can imagine some of these creatures, that big giant robot with the black hole in its chest, crazy, right? But it's not outside the bounds of what could be in the game because you're in the ninth world. You're just discovering stuff about the previous world. You have no idea what they were able to accomplish, right? So artwork, I give that a thumbs up. Bam. Thumbs up. Artwork. Fantastic stuff. So then let's talk about like character creation, right? We didn't talk a ton about it. We kind of gave it an overview. But what we did talk about allows you to create a pretty unique character. Now that's a big thing as well with games, because if you're playing a game and the character creation options are not very broad, if it's very limited, like games years ago, was very limited on your character creation. There were some really good games that allowed for a lot of diversity in characters, but a lot of them kind of just made basic characters. Like look at, the original Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like the OG, the original, back in the day, the elf was a class, right? So it's going to allow you to create a character. You can have a whole group of glaives, but everyone creates theirs differently, and everyone has stuff they're good at, stuff they're bad at. So but then you all work together, and you can still, get through, the scenario. You can get through the obstacles, and I'm a big man on character customization. Like nowadays, I like to think, I like to create, a concept and work backgrounds, and really, because I really like to just become the character and set aside my life now and spend several hours in another world imagining new things. And I think this game is going to let you do that. I'm going to give that a thumbs up. So let's talk about then the storytelling options. Like how well of a game is it going to be for the GM? Okay, so if you're the GM, this is something you're going to want to listen to. So I've been GMing, game mastering, storytelling for a long time, and honestly, looking through this, like this game sets you up really, really well. Like a lot of other games just kind of give you like a game master section or a storytelling section and kind of give you some hints, but kind of just leave you to your own devices. This book gives you a lot of tools and a lot of information to help you. Because, it's written by Monte Cook, and he's been doing this for, I don't know, probably longer than, probably than I've been alive. I know that he was, when he was working for TSR in the early 90s, I was born then, but he was probably writing and doing other stuff before that. So since he's the lead on this, like he's bringing all of that experience and he's giving it to you, on a plate. It looks like this book, right? So this is definitely going to be great for you as a GM. If this is the mood, the theme, and the genre you're looking to play, thumbs up. Like this is going to be for you. Trust me. Now we're going to get into like technical stuff. Let's talk about book organization. Like I kind of touched on, there was some organizational issues, especially in the character section, where it's like, okay, this is like the Jack page, and then the Nano is like halfway at the end of that page, and if you're not really paying attention, you're going to miss that. I would like it to be like, there'd be like a nice big, each character gets their own spread page at the front of their section with a nice piece of artwork, big, lettering at the top, Nano, Jack. So blam, I'm going right to the Nano. Okay, cool. It talks about some of the points and then get into it. And then kind of how some of the other stuff is organized. Like how the book is laid out, like by chapters, and how the content's arranged in the book. I would, overall, I'm gonna give it a thumbs up. I'm gonna give it a thumbs up as well. Obviously, they're going to be coming out with the second edition, Numenera 2. Like, if you were to go Google Numenera 2, it's going to bring you to that. I might even put a link in the link in the description below to the website for the new version, so you can go check it out. So if you want to get this and start playing this weekend, or if you want, okay, maybe I'll wait. I'll talk to some players and see what people are, hey, would you guys be interested in this? How about this? Get people excited, pick up the new stuff when it comes out, jump right in. I think they're going to fix a lot of those issues that I had. Some of you might like, I don't care, Brian, I found it just fine. You know, that's you, that's me, right? That's really the only, I don't know, downside I would have to say about the book. I don't really have any other negatives. I think overall as a whole, this is going to be a great game. Thumbs up. We get in the camera. Boom. Give it a thumbs up. Like if you're, like I said, if you like these mix of genres, so fantasy, high fantasy, sci-fi, you know, all that kind of stuff coming together and being able to use all of that in the world and making it work, I think this is going to be a game for you. So, with that said, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you like my content and that bell icon so you get instant notifications when I produce new content. And then until I see you again in the dungeon, I'm Brian, your game master, and happy gaming.